Natalie and John Shirilla sat in the sterile, anxious quiet of a hospital waiting room. Just hours earlier, they had received the phone call that every parent dreads. Their 17-year-old daughter, Mackenzie Shirilla, had been involved in a devastating car accident. She had been life-flighted by helicopter for emergency care. They knew nothing else. Every passing minute felt like an eternity. Finally, a police officer approached them. His demeanor was somber. He gently asked if they wanted to sit down, a question that only amplified their fear. The officer then delivered the news that would instantly shatter their world. He explained that there was a crash, a car into a building. 2 people, he said, were deceased in the vehicle. Their daughter, Mackenzie, was the one driving. A fog of confusion and horror enveloped Natalie and John. The officer continued, identifying the 2 victims who did not survive. One was Mackenzie's 20-year-old boyfriend, Dominic "Dom" Russo. The other was their 19-year-old friend, Devon. This revelation made Mackenzie the sole survivor. It also, by default, made her the primary suspect in a potential double murder. However, in these first initial hours, most, including the police, assumed this was simply the result of a tragic, innocent mistake. But as the investigation progressed, a series of dark and deeply disturbing secrets would begin to surface. They would slowly reveal that this event was clearly and terrifyingly much more than just an accident. The fateful night. The night had begun as a celebration. Mackenzie Shirilla was just 2 days away from her 18th birthday. She, Dominic, and Davon decided to go out. Their first stop was a high school party. Witnesses at the party later reported seeing Mackenzie and Dominic smoking. But more troubling, at one point, Mackenzie reportedly offered the host of the party psychedelic mushrooms. This behavior struck her friends as strange. They had never seen her use a substance like that before, let alone offer to pass them around. At 3:30 a.m., the group left the party. They drove to another friend's house across town, where they hung out for just over an hour, casually watching the show South Park. By 5 a.m., Mackenzie announced it was time to go home. She then made an unusual request. She insisted on driving instead of Dominic. This was not their normal arrangement, but Dominic agreed. As they were leaving, Davon asked for a ride home. Strangely, Mackenzie flatly refused to let him in the car. An argument ensued. Dominic eventually convinced her to give Devon the ride. All 3 of them climbed into the vehicle, unknowingly sealing their fate. The crash. At the intersection of Pearl Drive and Progress Drive, a CCTV camera captured the car's movement. Instead of continuing along Pearl Drive, which was the correct route to Devon's house, the car made an abrupt and inexplicable turn. It turned onto Progress Drive. This was a critical detail for investigators. Progress Drive is not a thoroughfare. It is a road that ends abruptly, running straight into the solid brick wall of a commercial building. The security footage captured what happened next. After turning onto the dead-end road, the car began to rapidly accelerate. Its speed climbed from a calm 30 miles per hour to over 90. In the very last seconds, the vehicle made an intense, sharp turn. This swerve allowed the car to narrowly avoid slamming into a large tree, but the maneuver came too late. The car, traveling at an incredible speed, launched into the air and slammed directly into the brick wall. The crashed car, a mangled wreck of metal, remained undiscovered in the pre-dawn darkness for 45 agonizing minutes. At 6:15 a.m., a passerby on a motorcycle finally spotted the destroyed vehicle and dialed 911. The discovery. Law enforcement arrived within minutes. Their body cameras, activated as they exited their cruisers, captured the horrific discovery. Officers rushed to the vehicle, shouting to see if anyone inside could hear them. One officer yelled for someone to bust out a window. The scene was chaotic and grim. They quickly found the driver, Mackenzie. She was alive, breathing, but trapped in the driver's seat. Officers worked frantically to get her out, calling for a knife to cut the seatbelt. As they focused on extracting Mackenzie, they made the tragic confirmation. The front passenger, 20-year-old Dominic Russo, and the backseat passenger, 19-year-old Davon, were both unresponsive. They showed no signs of life. Both were pronounced deceased at the scene. As medics and firefighters rushed to tend to Mackenzie, investigators began the grim task of trying to understand how such a devastating crash could have happened. They immediately noted the sheer force of the impact. An investigator scanning the perimeter noticed a small, dark dome on the corner of the impacted building. It was a security camera. If it was working, it held the objective key to what happened in those final, fatal seconds. The man who had initially called 911 arrived on the scene to give his statement. He described seeing the front end of the car, completely destroyed, and remarked that they must have been traveling at an immense speed. The initial theory. In the immediate aftermath, officers filed the crash as a tragic accident. They soon learned Mackenzie had been diagnosed with POTS, a condition known to cause dizziness and fainting spells. The working theory was a medical episode, perhaps combined with the substances she had allegedly been taking. This theory seemed plausible. However, one detail worried the lead investigators. For a crash at such a high velocity, they would expect to see long, dark skid marks from a driver desperately trying to stop. Here, there were none. The car had not braked at all. Breaking the news. Back at the hospital, the officer prepared Mackenzie's parents. He confirmed their daughter was alive and had been talking to them. But then he had to deliver the news about the two fatalities. He confirmed that her boyfriend, Dom, was one of them. The officer then explained he had to be fully transparent. He informed the shocked parents that drugs had been found in the car. Specifically, Mackenzie had a bag of mushrooms and a scale on her person when she was extracted. He also revealed one more critical detail. Mackenzie was the only person in the car who was wearing a seatbelt. The officer stated unequivocally that this 100% saved her life. At the time, it seemed like a footnote. Later, this detail would become a cornerstone of the prosecution's case. The officers then faced the even harder task of notifying the other families. They drove to the home of Dominic's mother, Christine. They gently informed her that there had been an incident, and they believed Dominic was involved. They had to tell a mother that her son was gone. They explained that both Davon and Dominic were deceased. Christine was heartbroken, collapsing in grief. She learned that it was Mackenzie's car, and that Mackenzie herself was alive and in surgery. A survivor's strange behavior. 3 weeks later, Mackenzie was discharged from the hospital. The community viewed her as a tragic survivor, grieving the loss of her boyfriend and friend. But soon her own behavior began to raise alarms. She never attended the funerals for either Dominic or Davon. On social media, she bragged about her drug use. Then, just 3 months after the crash, she attended a Halloween party dressed as a detailed, gruesome corpse, a costume her parents publicly defended. She also began flaunting thousands of undocumented dollars. This strange, callous behavior was deeply concerning, but it was all circumstantial. It wasn't enough for police to reopen the case. That all changed when Dominic's grieving family came to the police with a video. The investigation reopens. The video was from Dominic's own phone, recorded just 10 days before the crash. It was a short snippet from a much longer 15-minute recording. In the clip, Mackenzie is not visible, but her voice is clear, cold, and filled with rage. She is threatening Dominic, who is apparently on the other side of a locked door. In a recorded clip, she threatened consequences if he did not open the door. This was not all. Dominic's family provided even more disturbing material, including text messages that confirmed Mackenzie had threatened to kill Dominic in the past. This was the evidence police needed. The case was immediately reopened. It was no longer an accident investigation. It was now being investigated as a planned double homicide. Investigators were now working to prove that Mackenzie Shirilla had intentionally, and with premeditation, driven her car into that wall. Detectives began interviewing everyone in Mackenzie and Dominic's circle. They first brought in Tyler, one of Mackenzie's former boyfriends. His account only deepened their concerns. Tyler described his own relationship with Mackenzie and confirmed that her relationship with Dom was extremely volatile, constantly on and off. He described Mackenzie as crazy and mentally just not all there. Tyler then offered a bizarre, unsettling glimpse into the relationship's psychology. He told investigators that Mackenzie had claimed to have done voodoo on Dominic. She had allegedly told people she put a spell on him, using a piece of his hair and a doll to prevent him from ever leaving her. While it sounded like fantasy, it painted a picture of obsessive, controlling behavior. Tyler concluded his interview with a chilling speculation. He told police he personally felt that Mackenzie was trying to kill herself in that crash and had simply failed. Two friends who had attended the party with the group also came forward. They told police they had analyzed the car's data. They pointed out the 90-mile-per-hour speed and, crucially, the complete lack of hard braking until the very moment of impact. They believed Mackenzie and Dominic must have been fighting in the car. A clear motive emerges. The most compelling information, however, came from Dominic's brother. He confirmed their turbulent relationship, recounting a terrifying incident just days before the crash. He explained that Mackenzie had physically attacked Dominic while he was driving on the highway, forcing him to pull over, terrified she was going to make him crash. This provided investigators with a clear and powerful motive. Dominic was actively trying to end the relationship, but Mackenzie had reportedly vowed that she would never let go of Dom and could not live without him. Investigators also found a police report from just a week after the incident. Mackenzie's own father, John Shirilla, had called police, hysterically stating his daughter needed a psychological evaluation. The disturbance was because he had forbidden her from attending Dominic's funeral. Despite her apparent signs of mourning, like creating a shrine for Dominic, police were about to uncover evidence that painted a far different picture. The phone. After decrypting Mackenzie's phone, investigators uncovered a deeply troubling picture. They found photos of her posing with large sums of cash, fake IDs, and a Snapchat conversation where she solicited money for explicit acts. Her phone also revealed a history of extreme, reckless driving. It contained videos of her speeding, smoking marijuana at the wheel, and even laughing after a minor crash she referred to as a practice run. But the evidence that sealed her fate came from her phone's location data. In the days leading up to the crash, data showed Mackenzie had driven down the exact same road, Progress Drive, 7 different times. She had driven straight toward the same brick wall. She had practiced the route. The arrest and trial. Police now believed they had gathered overwhelming evidence to prove Mackenzie had planned the murders. On November 4th, 2022, more than 3 months after the crash, officers were dispatched to arrest the now 18-year-old Mackenzie Shirilla. A detective approached her calmly. He informed her he was the one investigating the crash and that she was under arrest for aggravated murder, ×2. Mackenzie's parents soon found out about her arrest and drove immediately to the police station. They desperately and angrily confronted the police. Her father, John, was irate, complaining about the manner of her arrest and that they had creepers watching his house. He demanded to speak to his daughter, insisting she understood not to say anything. He told the officers that Mackenzie was not allowed to speak to them, demanding a lawyer. He yelled that she was a dumb 18-year-old and that the officers were going to take advantage of her. But it was too late. Mackenzie was going to have to face the consequences of her actions in a court of law. She was tried as an adult. In a significant legal move, she decided to waive her right to a trial by jury. This meant her fate would be left entirely in the hands of a single judge. The defense team claimed she had lost consciousness, citing her POTS condition as the reason for the crash. The prosecution dismantled this claim. They presented the evidence piece by piece. They showed the videos of her threats. They showed the texts. They showed the location data from her phone, proving she had practiced the route. And they showed the final chilling CCTV footage of the crash itself. They argued that her claim of losing consciousness was a lie, proven by the sharp, deliberate swerve to avoid the tree just seconds before impact. That was the action of a conscious driver. They argued she wore a seatbelt because she intended to survive. The prosecution stated that Mackenzie crashed the car as a deliberate, methodical, and intentional act. It was, they argued, an easy way out of a relationship she was about to lose. Hell on wheels. The judge agreed with the prosecution. On August 14, 2023, Mackenzie Sharilla's fate was sealed. In delivering the verdict, the judge described the evidence, particularly the video from the building, as chilling and tragic. The court characterized her driving as extremely dangerous and intentional. The judge's conclusion was stark and unambiguous. Her mission, the judge stated, was death. Mackenzie alone decided to push the pedal to the floor and demand the ultimate speed of that vehicle. Mackenzie alone decided death was the ultimate goal that day, and she alone made that decision for Dominic and Davon. Her actions were ruled to be controlled, methodical, deliberate, intentional, and purposeful. This was not reckless driving. This was murder. Mackenzie Sharilla was found guilty on 4 counts of murder, 4 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide, and 1 count of aggravated vehicular homicide count of drug possession, and 1 count of possessing criminal tools. She was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. She is currently being held in the Ohio Reformatory for Women. Her first opportunity for parole will not come until October of 2037.